It's starting.
Oh, there we go. It says live.
Should be good. All right, let me just click over the YouTube thing because there's a little delay. I don't know if you have the other window open, but you can have the YouTube window open and the Google thing window
No, I
open.
just have the one open. And less headaches that way, I think.
All right.
Less chances of technical difficulties.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Okay, it looks like we're running. We are live. Of course, there's nobody here. It's just you and me.
Oh.
But it will be recorded and it'll go up on YouTube on my channel when we're all done.
Okay.
So let me do one more thing. I got feedback because I have my speakers on. All right, greetings everybody. Maybe I'll edit out this first bit and we'll just start right now. Greetings everybody. This is Talladega Tom. I'm here with with IAmTheLord3. We've been trying to schedule a hangout for a while and we finally did it, and both of us are here. And so IAmTheLord3. His name is Kim. You're okay with me calling you Kim? There's a little delay. I don't know if you got the other window open.
Wow.
Can you hear me?
Oh, wow. We got like a 10, 20-second delay here.
Are you on? You're on the Google Hangout page, right?
There, I killed the other one. Wow, I had an echo and a delay.
Yeah, just mute off the...
Yeah, I closed it out. Okay, that took care of it.
Or just mute it, yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of funky. All right, you know what? Let's just start over because I can edit all that crap out when it goes to YouTube. You're still there, right? You still got it?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, good. All right. I'm not sure we're still in delay land over there. All right, greetings everybody. Talladega Tom here. I'm with IAmTheLord3, also known as Kim. You're okay with Kim, right?
That's fine.
And Kim is a theist. I am an atheist, and we've decided to have a discussion. I think we have some opposing views, and maybe we can see if we can find some common ground. As a brief background to folks who may not understand the background here, I have a video that's up, Christopher Hitchens' video on Islam. IAmTheLord3 started a thread from the Christian point of view, and boy, oh boy, that one went for a long, long way. There's, I don't know, about 400 or so comments on that now. Don't expect everybody to run out and read it, but that's kind of what brought this Google Hangout to be. So before we start the debate, we've both agreed that if we get into a situation where we require a definition for a word, I've seen several debates where people have just argued over the same idea and just different words. So we've agreed that if we come to a situation like that, we will use Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, and there's our definition. We'll kind of just go with that if it comes to that. It may or may not. And with that, I'm going to throw it to Kim. I think I won't speak for you, but I think just I'll preface to say that you are not quite a Bible literalist, but almost. So why don't you go ahead and take it from there?
Well, I would say, yeah, I read the Bible, and like I said, I started out with that thread with arguing with Muslims, which I generally do. I believe in creation, and I don't believe in the theories of evolution. And I guess that's kind of what started us off on this debate.
Yeah, so why don't we just take it right from the top, and Fido's hopefully having a good time. My cat is asleep, so we shouldn't have that problem.
I had to shut my door because my dogs are barking.
Yeah, no worries, that's fun. Good voice. So how do you differentiate between your God being real and Allah being real? Are they both two gods existing here, or only one of them real, one of them is not real? How are you determining that Islam is wrong and your religion is right?
I would determine that Islam would have been wrong just from reading the Quran, reading the Hadiths, studying the Prophet of Islam, and the artifact that is the moon god Allah. There's an artifact. I have pictures of that on my on my site also, complete with the crescent moon and the star carved into it. And Muhammad did, of course, have 360 some odd idols in the Kaaba. People used to, that was kind of like a merchant center there. People went there to worship any of the number of different gods that were there until Muhammad came back and made the moon god Allah the only god to worship. Then it was also a pagan idol of his tribe, Koresh or whatever they're called. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, most likely, but that was the favorite idol of his tribe before Islam came along, before he decided he was a prophet. So that's how come I would say that their God is not. Although Islam does claim to have a lineage with, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they mention a lot of some of the prophets in the Quran. They mention Jesus in the Quran, and
So what makes the Bible true and the Quran not true then?
well, just like I said, just studying Muhammad, I would have to say that the things that he did, how Islam was spread by the sword, and that's pretty much true today also. And that's in their hadiths also, where they, in all the battles that Muhammad was in, trying to make him look like the last prophet doesn't seem too likely considering what he did to spread Islam. So I would say that, because of the artifact and the moon god and so forth, that Islam would be a false religion, and most likely if there, is a God out there during end times, which may occur in the next 20 years roughly, that Islam will represent the Antichrist.
Oh, that's interesting. So, sure, there's a lot of ways I can go here. Maybe we should even back up a tad before that.
Okay.
How do we know that any God exists? What's your best God exists stuff for me?
I've been looking into that a little bit more, kind of when I had the chance these last few days here since we last spoke, and to actually prove, you can go back to, like, did Moses cross the Red Sea when he left Egypt? There's some artifacts, although vague, with believe 5-spoke wheels that are on the bottom of the Red Sea, but the Egyptians won't let nobody touch none of that or look at it. All you can see is kind of a vague thing with a lot of growth on it. So
sure, but as I mentioned in the comments, there's no way to determine.
No.
Those got there. They could have been tossed off a boat at any time. So
it could have been. I mean, who knows where? I mean, it could have came from.
That doesn't give me any proof there. You know what I'm going?
That's really a vague thing. One thing I was looking into a little bit more recently, although there's just so much there that I haven't been able to go over all of it. Even that one site that I told you to go look at a long time ago, a month ago or whatever. I started reading a little bit more of that because I never did read all of it. It's 193 pages long. But then I came across some other guy named Roger G. Vogelsang, if I'm saying it properly, and he has some kind of thing called an STI device, which he declares that it's gives scientific proof that God exists, although some of that's kind of questionable. And there's some other one, then I really didn't get into this one a whole lot. I just have a notation on it of an EPR experiment and some other.
What does that one stand for? Do you know?
I didn't really get a chance to look at that. I mean, Einstein was part of the thing on it, some other scientists. It had to do with quantum physics and stuff like this. So there's just a lot of stuff to read in there. So, I mean,
well,
it would take me probably weeks to look through that.
Sure. Well, here's my problem. In a general way, I'm going to throw this at you, and maybe you can kind of give me something to chew on here.
Okay.
Something like a God should be incredibly obvious. It should be obvious to the entire world in a universally obvious way. Everybody should get it. We're all on the same page. When you mention God, everybody knows what it is. And we don't see that around the world. We have widely varying ideas of whether God exists, whether it doesn't exist, and what it is and what it wants. And so I'm really, from my point of view, I have a hard time absorbing Christianity or Islam or any of them without that basic foundation of, well, where's the thing to begin with? So maybe you can help us. There's nothing tangible. There's no miracles. There's nothing.
Yeah, there would be nothing that you could see right now today. I mean, even the time between the Old Testament and the New Testament, there was a 400-year span where there was just nothing but silence. So it would be like, where is the God? Where's the silent one? He hasn't appeared yet. And then when Jesus did come, and the only way you can verify any miracles that he ever perform would be like what's in the Bible. There's no other way to, see that there's, eyewitness like you would find to, like, newsprint or something about World War II or whatever. But according to the miracles that he performed, even, which were many, and a lot of the Jews didn't believe him either, that he was the Messiah.
Does any of that make sense in the grand scheme? Really? I mean, a few wine bottles from water. I mean, that's the best that can be done for a couple thousand years.
Yeah, I mean, wine bottles, water, raising the dead,
Well,
healing the blind, the lame. I mean, you can go through all that kind of stuff. There's a whole litany, that you could go through, but
it's a
whether or
it's
not
a
you could prove it.
it's a short list in the grand scheme. I mean, what's he done lately? A couple blind guys back then. I mean, what are we talking
Yeah,
about?
I mean, and then that's been nearly 2,000 years, and there's not been a word. So, the only
Well,
thing the
that's
Bible said, the only thing you could maybe you could come to a conclusion with, and this might be in the near future, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. It would be to see what, if you really got into like revelations and prophecies, end time prophecies. There's a ton of stuff out there. I haven't even begun to scratch the surface on that either. And is in an eye on the Middle East to see what's happening through there. If anything that's written in the Bible about end time prophecy starts to come true, that's about the closest thing as you're going to get. If all of a sudden you say, "Oh wow, that was in the Bible," or that was kind of led up to something that was mentioned in Revelations or something, that's probably going to be the only thing you're going to be able to look at that's tangible.
all right. Well, that leaves me pretty empty. In a grand scheme, do you really think that's a way God would operate? If there was really a God out there that created Earth and created all of us, all the people, all the birds, all the animals, all the little deer running around in my backyard, he plays this weird, mysterious game, and then all of a sudden shows up, and some people go and some people don't. Does that make any sense?
The only way I could come back to that, would be my agnostic beliefs from long ago. Also, would be how did everything get here already? I mean, I would have to say, okay, well, is evolution correct? And then I'd have to start looking at that, and then just the probability of evolution happening at all with every creature that's here, including us. I'd have to say no. It has to be some kind of intelligent design, whether it's ET or whatever, or God or something. But I don't see how it could be an accident or it just happened to go on.
Well, evolution is, as we maybe went back and forth in the comments, is about the one thing that humanity has tested and proven and knows for certain. We know evolution is true about more than we know about anything else. And if you're talking about the spark, we had this little conversation earlier.
Yeah.
If you're saying that God kind of sparked it and walked away and let evolution just run its course, well, that's fine and dandy. But again, that negates Adam and Eve, because we know that two breeding pairs can't populate a species. So there's no way that there was an Adam and Eve to start humanity. Women weren't made from the rib of a man. It's just those are facts. And so when you're going to call it creationism, you can't say man was created. You just can't anymore.
Even with evolution, there's no way to verify basically anything there, because nothing can be duplicated in a laboratory. I mean, you can't even create a bacteria, an amoeba, or nothing in a laboratory from nothing. From a sterile environment, you cannot create anything in there. You can't produce bacteria. You can't produce a living anything.
Well, NASA just found organic materials on Mars. How did that stuff get there?
No one knows.
Is it possible that it could be...
I mean, that's like theorizing about black holes.
Well, sure, but is it possible that could be a natural occurrence? It's either natural or woo-woo.
I mean, how did they? I mean, did they take a sample? I mean, they haven't landed anything on Mars and brought it back.
Yeah, we have. We got curiosity and opportunity. Yeah. There are rovers running around on Mars right this second. Been there for over a year.
And they haven't returned, though.
Nope, but they've been drilling samples. And making all kinds of tests. There is organic material on Mars. So is God just seeding Mars now for some future woo-woo, or is this just a natural... this is what happens in the universe?
Maybe seeding Mars. I mean, the experiment here on Earth didn't go so well for the last, 6,000 years.
Which brings up my question of, well, where is this guy? I mean, wouldn't it make sense to give humanity a little bit of direction, universally understood in an unambiguous way, not mysterious with books that are misinterpreted?
Yeah, it depends on. Yeah, I'll go along with that. All the books are misinterpreted because everybody interprets any book, whether it's Islam. I mean, I look for things that lean toward what I want to believe. Sometimes I look at it with an open mind. Can this be real? I've come to the conclusion that it's not. Same with the Bible. I've looked at that. Could this be real? Could it be true? Even James, what was his name? I want to say Tabor, but I think that's wrong. He wrote a book called The Jesus Dynasty. He's an atheist. He's a professor, and he's professor of religious studies. And according to his book, it's all, make-believe. Jesus existed, but not the way everybody believes in the Bible. But then it's written by an atheist professor. So what was his angle when he wrote the book to prove that Christianity is false?
Well, if we go back to Adam and Eve, the whole point of sending Jesus was to die for this original sin thing. And there was no original sin. There was no Adam and no Eve, no fruit, no talking snake. None of that occurred. We know that it didn't occur because evolution, by natural selection, tells us that humanity evolved into being. There was no Garden of Eden. None of that occurred. So there's no reason to send Jesus to go die for our sins that didn't happen.
Okay, I was waiting to see if you were done there.
Okay, yeah, I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, from an atheist point of view, yeah, it wouldn't have happened. There would be no Adam and Eve. But the creation part is what I can't see because, like I said, there's like 3.2 billion pairs of nucleides in a strand of DNA. That all happened by accident. Even if you changed a couple of them, a million of them, 1,000 of them, it's not going to, most likely not going to improve it. It's going to make it worse. But natural selection says that it's going to improve it by something changing in it, and eventually you're going to produce a human. The only way that would work would be that if we, evolve from monkeys or something else, which I don't believe either. I don't see how the monkey can suddenly change over the next 10 million years, and then all of a sudden it's going to have shorter arms and it's going to walk upright and its head's going to be shaped different and all of its hair is going to fall off except for its head. Okay,
well, we didn't evolve from monkeys, so whenever I hear that, I sort of.
Yeah, I seen you cringe.
I sort of have to do a face palm when I hear that. What it really means is that you just, and I don't mean to be negative, but it just means you just don't understand the evolutionary process. So what about Homo erectus, Homo habilis, some of the other humanoids that have been around that we can dig up? Did God abandon those? We have found ritual graves from other humanoids, so other Homo species. So did God abandon those, or were they just praying to nothing, which is what I contend.
That I couldn't answer for you. I mean, how many different types of, there's slight differences in the makeup between European people, Asian people, African people. Everybody has a little bit different makeup, different skull structure or something like this.
Sure, that's explained by evolution. That's how we get that diversity. That's what evolution does. Now, actually, I'd love to go back to the Cambrian thing that you mentioned in the comments, because I actually never did understand what you mentioned. Briefly for the audience, Kim had mentioned that the Cambrian somehow proves that evolution cannot occur or did not occur. So have at it. I want to hear this one.
I wish I had the time to go back to look at that one vid I sent. It was like an 8-minute and 39-second vid, but the maker pretty well proves, at least to satisfy my point of view anyway, that the Cambrian explosion couldn't have occurred the way evolutionists say it did. I mean, over the span of millions and millions of years, but to go from a simpler, how did that go? Simpler species or something like that, as the animal explosion took place, or the different species started forming and coming about. And they kept improving and improving, but he was talking about the DNA and something else that made it kind of impossible to happen that way. And I really would need to watch that vid again and take a few notes to.
Yeah, well, maybe if we have another hangout, if we have another hangout sometime, you can maybe go back to that point. From my position, the Cambrian explosion is pure evolution. And you have to remember, it's over an extreme period of time. The word explosion kind of indicates that it happened quickly. Millions of years is not particularly quick. It's a long time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that's what can create that diversity, is such an extraordinary amount of time under the right conditions, and that's what you had at the Cambrian. that's what just exploded life. You know, I hate to use that term in such a you have to keep in mind these are geologic time frames. These are massive time frames. Consider the Earth being 4 billion years. That's a huge number. And that extreme amount of time, a lot can happen. And that's happened. Here we are.
Yeah, that's like saying too when I was talking before about the dinosaurs being extinct and something smaller taking their place, and same with like a shark, the megalodon having a lack of food or something like that, so it starts producing smaller sharks. Now we get, like, instead of a 60-foot long great white, we have a 30-foot long great white or a 25-foot long great white shark. If the species is lacking in food, its organs aren't going to function properly. It's not going to reproduce a smaller version of itself. It's just not going to reproduce at all.
Well, that's true. There are lots of critters that, when the conditions are not conducive to breeding, they don't breed. Birds and mammals. I want to say a kangaroo does it, but I'm not 100% sure. I would need an Aussie to confirm that for me. But I think a kangaroo, when there's drought or food shortages or whatever, for whatever reason, it will either sit on that embryo and it won't incubate it. I'm not sure on that, though. I'll have to.
That would sound reasonable.
Put a caveat on that. So, but you don't think evolution is happening? That's not a true thing?
No, I just don't see how mathematically speaking, the odds are so great against it. I just don't see it happening at this point.
Well, and maybe in the comments too, I mentioned the Noah's Ark scenario where you had only a couple breeding pairs leaving the Ark. How did they repopulate the species quick enough to build the Tower of Babel? There aren't enough generations.
Well, like you said, it's thousands of years in time. I mean, if you had just two people, at one spot, you'd eventually have a whole bunch of people. I mean, one man with 10 different wives, it's going to reproduce a lot of children that way and a lot more quickly. The same with the animals. They're going to have one male and several females at a time breeding, and then it's going to be 10 males and 100 females at the same time breeding, and over that course of thousands and thousands of years, there'd be a lot of animals.
But the only problem is we know for a fact that it can't happen. We know what endangered species, you've heard of the term endangered species. When a species gets below a certain number, it can't repopulate itself. It's that simple. Whether it's a human being or some sort of any mammal, once it gets down to a certain number, man, that's it, lights out.
They've had a lot of different species went under the protected acts and stuff like this. Sea otters are one of them. There was hardly any of them around the coast of California. Now there's so many of them now that we have the second largest great white shark population around Central California and the Farallon Islands and stuff next to Australia.
Yeah, interesting. Don't know enough about that. I'll have to look at that.
Oh yeah, you can check that out. There's a triangle between the Farallon Islands and a couple places near Point Reyes or something, somewhere south or north or whatever. I can't remember the exact points. It's a second largest great white shark population in that area because of the California Protected Mammal Act. You can't, do anything with seals, sea lions, and sea otters.
Interesting.
But that's the primary diet of a great white shark.
All right, so let's get back to the God thing real quick. So you really, earlier, you kind of said there really isn't, you don't have much evidence for God, really. You just don't.
No, other than those things I say, I was just starting to look into with that Vogelstein's STI device, and there was a mention of the Krebs cycle, citric acid cycle, same thing, and that EPR experiment, which I haven't even got a chance to look at yet.
But you don't think that a God should be obvious in any other way? We shouldn't be able to see it? I mean, get an autograph? Why is it so mysterious? Why can't even we get some statistical analysis for healing or things like this?
If God was that obvious, even at the time of Jesus, not that many people believed, not that many people wanted to believe, not that many people cared. The Jews were under the oppression of Rome. They wanted their Messiah to restore things the way it was back in the time of King David, King Solomon, and that's what they expected the Messiah to do. And Jesus obviously wasn't there to do something like that, so they didn't care. They didn't want to hear about it. They didn't, They wanted to, you're not the one we're looking for. You're not the one that we believe in. So go away. Right now, if somebody was to come along and say the same thing and start healing people, curing the sick, and empty out hospitals because he cured everybody, there would be a lot of people that still wouldn't pay any attention, wouldn't believe,
Mm.
wouldn't care.
I don't know. I think if some dude showed up and started emptying hospitals, I mean, really, amputees are walking around with their legs. And,
Walking around with both legs, blind people starting, able to see, deaf people get hearing.
Well, hell yeah, sign me up, buddy. If you put me in front of the hospital, if you got amputees walking out with their actual legs, dude, I'm convinced immediately. But we don't see that. We never see that.
But if you did see something like that, the guy's gone in 6 months, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road, it'd all be forgotten. No one would want to follow again. That's the same thing. That's the cycle that happened in the Book of Judges and so forth in the Old Testament. They believed Israel was saved. The Jews were there. Things were going great.
In this modern day and age, the great absent one could show up, talk to the world in any number of universally obvious and unambiguous ways, clear the air. You wouldn't have three major religions butting head around a piece of land over in the Holy Land. None of this violence would have to take place. He could just step in, end it. So it doesn't. Does it like this violence? Is it sitting around just watching the show? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, right at the moment, yeah, I would say yes. To sit around watching the show, and when the second coming happens, things are going to be good according to the Bible for 1,000 years, and then after that, the great one's going to be the non-seeing great one again.
But that's according to the
Bible.
But what about the other books that don't say that and are equally held in high esteem by other faithful?
Well, even Islam says that the Bible's true, although they don't want to admit it. Then they'll turn around at the same time and say it's corrupt. And then if you went to like Hinduism or something like that, I really couldn't tell you because I don't really know nothing about it.
Well, we know that the Bible is not true in lots of ways. I mean, we can clearly demonstrate it with evolution. We know that Adam and Eve story is not true. So if you're going to step into the, well, that's allegory thing, well, it's a slippery slope. And it doesn't support the idea in any way. It just doesn't.
I'm making a little note here.
It doesn't help Allah's case. It doesn't help God's case, or Jesus, or Thor, or anybody, any god that anyone can name. Where is it?
Well, I see, like the evolution thing. I still don't buy into evolution. Even to say God, ignited the spark and said, okay, well, I'm going to let Big Bang. That's how I started everything with creation. And then I'll let everything take over from there. And there's a little spark in the mud pond over here to bring life about. I still couldn't buy that even.
Well, it does seem a little careless if you're a god, right? I mean, just to set it in motion and walk away and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, that'd be a little bit careless.
That would seem to be a bit careless. Although that, if I was going to have to agree with you in any way, at best, that's the only thing that's left open for God. Is that he set the Big Bang in motion and walked away and let it all fly. So at the very least, it's careless and careless. So getting back to the Islam, the Allah thing, Allah has no more value than Jesus or your God. They're equally absent. They're equally vacant.
Well, I can prove, pretty easy just from, looking at some artifacts that I've actually posted on my page that there sits the moon god Allah. It's a rock in the Kaaba, but it was Muhammad's favorite rock.
By the way, if you've got a page, plug it.
Yeah, it should be on my Google Plus page.
Well, give it to me if you want to say it, and I'll just type it into the chat.
Oh, I mean, if you search, if you did a quick search, just put picture of moon god Allah.
It's on your Google. I'm sorry,
it's on my page. I probably have like 100 comments or so on there.
Yeah, okay, people can find it.
Yeah. So I mean, I can see that artifact. I can see that when Muhammad first decided that he had his first meeting with the spirit that he later claims was Gabriel, it scared him to death. He wanted to kill himself. He wanted to commit suicide. He ran back, covered his head up, and told his first wife, that what had happened, and he wanted to kill himself after that. The spirit kept telling him no. His first wife convinced him that he's a prophet, so he starts preaching he had very, very few followers until after the so-called flight, where he left Mecca and fled to Medina. Later on, after he brokers peace between some warring factions, he develops an army, goes back to Mecca, kills everybody that pissed him off the first time he was there, and destroys all the other idols, and decides that the moon god Allah is the only idol that anybody's going to worship, and I've got an army to back it up if no one likes it. Then Islam started spreading, through violence.
Yeah, it doesn't support the validity of the claim.
No, so I mean that's just one of the many things that his marrying of a 6-year-old little girl that was the daughter of his best friend. He was 50 at the time, and there's some things like this. I argue about Muslims' version of jihad from what the Hadith and Quran say about jihad. I mean, there's two different things.
Well, sure, but there's nothing to indicate that their crap is any more real than all the goofy stories that I could talk about in the Bible. I mean, men in a fish for 3 days and all the other wacky shit. And we can get violent, too. There's plenty of
there's lots of violence and stuff like that in the Old Testament. There's plenty of it. There's
and most of it is still
massacres and stuff.
Sure. I mean, is this the kind of God that you worship? One that does that kind of stuff?
See, that's why I still have agnostic leanings. I still read the Bible. I still believe a lot of it. Most of it.
But you call yourself I am the Lord.
Oh yeah. Well, I had to have a username. I mean, we all have usernames. I mean, you picked yours according to a racetrack.
Well, I did. But at least I can find a racetrack. I know where it is. I can see it.
I mean, I've caught a lot of flack over IAmTheLord3 thing, telling me from everything so I'm going to go to hell for using that name and for the little avatar picture I have on there. Not many people know the history of that picture either. And I'm going to go to hell for using that one. And then my next question, well, who's the picture? I mean, why am I going to go to hell over using that picture? You're making pictures of Jesus. Well, how do you know it's Jesus? You just told me I'm going to hell for using the picture. And that little history on that picture. Sometime slightly before World War II, I think, or right around there, some artist had this dream about seeing Jesus, and then he woke up out of the sleep with this clear picture in his mind. That's the picture I have on my little avatar that he drew, and it became one of the most reprinted pictures of Jesus ever. I mean, it's found on the cover of a lot of Bibles. It was on prayer cards for soldiers in World War II and everything.
Yeah, amazing. Memes spread. They're easy to spread.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
People swallow stuff hook, line, and sinker pretty easy. I mean,
1.6 billion Muslims are proof of that.
There you go, and the same with Christianity. I'm sorry, but there's no evidence for the Christian God either. Not a lick.
Well, if I had, and maybe I'll find it in the next week or two or month or whatever, some what I would call irrefutable proof that evolution did happen, somehow that it did happen, and it's believable to me.
You are proof of evolution. You are a product of your mom and your dad.
That's very true.
So you are a step in the evolutionary process, because part of you is your dad, part of you is your mom, and you're a blend of those two. You evolved into you. It's that simple.
And, well, it says the same thing about Adam and Eve. I mean, you have Cain, Abel, and Seth. They're 3 children from Adam and Eve. So,
but you can't breed a population out of 2 people.
Well, we're talking, maybe 10,000 years, 100,000 years, 50,000 years. I mean, we don't know.
We do know. We know that.
You'll never find any religious literature that'll give you a date as to when Adam and Eve, when creation started, or anything else, because no one knows for certain.
Well, we do know for certain. We can set a date. We know about when life started on Earth, about 3 billion years ago. That's when creation occurred.
That's when the first amoebas come produced in the oceans or in the waters.
Well, the first reproducible critters, molecules, or whatever they were, as soon as things started reproducing. I mean, asexually or not. I mean, that's when it occurred.
Well, that's like God, I can't think of the name. There's a. I was gonna.
Yeah,
I would.
well, the point is that the Bible's false.
Well,
I mean, that's the
I
bottom
don't.
line of the whole thing. It's
I don't expect to
false.
convince you that the Bible's true in the past 30 minutes or in the next 30 minutes. Just the
Well,
same as I'm not really convinced that evolution took place.
well, actually, let's show me something in the Bible that you do think is true. That's for sure. I can believe that's true. I mean, the fishing that a guy living in a fish for 3 days, I can't do that one. Thou shalt not kill. Okay, I could probably go with that
Well,
one.
yeah, I mean, all the Ten
We're not
Commandments, stuff
stealing
like
and
that.
not lying, but I'm not going to worship some dude just because it wants me to worship him. That isn't here.
Yeah, like I said, you'd have to have, when the hospitals are starting to be emptied or something like that. That's a little bit different story there.
Yeah, show me that amputee. I'll sign
You
right
know,
up.
and I still believe, just like it happened in the Bible, 50 or 60 years from now, after the hospitals were all emptied, 2 generations from now, that would be just a story, and no one would care, and half the people wouldn't even believe it anymore. Because it wasn't something that they could see.
I don't know. That would be constant news. I
Nah,
mean, Michael Jordan's in a car accident, gets his legs ripped off. God restores his leg. Updated.
yeah,
time.
restore
I
the
mean,
sight.
that shit would happen all the time.
Yeah, no, well, and then if it happened for 6 months, it ended. 3/4 of the world would believe it, because especially those that seen it. Those that didn't see it would still be skeptical about it, and those that did see it and told it to their children, who told it to their children, and then their children
But it
wouldn't
wouldn't
believe
be
it
telling it
anymore.
to their children. If God was really doing stuff, it would be all the time.
No, that would.
I mean, the death rate from automobile accidents would be zero because God would be doing His thing.
That's the other thing about it. I don't see happening ever. It never happened in the past. It never happened anywhere in the Bible, or was continuous all the time. Right there, year after year after year for the next 100 years, 1,000 years, didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
But why would it happen now?
Why shouldn't it happen now? That's my whole point.
Never did it before. Why would things change now, though? I mean, it's supposed to happen again on the second coming,
Right.
and that'll stay that way allegedly for 1,000 years, and then he's going to go away again.
Yeah. Well. The point I'm trying to make is that nothing has ever happened or will happen. I mean, we've been waiting on this second coming according to your own book. They're supposed to be here within a lifetime of the disciples. Where is this guy? He's a little late.
No, he said he was going to. The disciples were told that the Holy Spirit would come onto them, which did happen according to the Bible. Now, the Muslims claim that the Holy Spirit was supposed to be Muhammad.
Well, I don't have the verse on the tip of my tongue, but no, he was supposed to come back in the lifetime of the disciples. I don't have.
You can see it somewhere in the probably the book of Acts. It'll be in Acts someplace. I don't know either where.
But the point is, he didn't live up to his word, and he's still not here. And the world is so confused about what God is and what it wants. It's obvious to me that the thing just doesn't exist. It's not there. And we have Jews, Muslims, Christians, everybody with the ultimate emperor has no clothes things. We're all praying, and Muslims, praying 5 times a day, whatever. You're going to church every Sunday and, praising Jesus. It ain't there. It's amazing to me how the groupthink is so powerful that you don't even stop to think or ask, where is this thing? Nobody does that. It's bizarre. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, well, belief would do that. Yes, I got to say, yeah, belief will do that. Whether your belief in, no matter what your belief is in, I don't care if you believe in ET or whatever it is, your belief in Santa Claus when you're little.
It's putting faith ahead of reason, is what it is. You can't. Faith is fine, but you can't put it ahead of true knowledge and just simple reason. And maybe we should touch on the thing that actually sparked me so much in our exchange was the witch thing. Now maybe we can talk about the witches and demons. Do you really believe that witches and demons, as the Bible describes them, do they really exist?
They were, to me, the part when it says like the witches and demons, evil spirits, a schizophrenic behavior, kind of like Muhammad. That that is more like what along the lines of what I think was being mentioned or what it was meant. I mean, not some witch with the big long nose and the wart on the end of it and stuff like this. But anybody that practiced sorcery, when I can come along and say I'm a witch, I'm a sorcerer,
Oh,
I can
sure.
cast out evil spells, and it's only going to cost you $100.
Right. Well, there's modern day witches that have come to me on occasion and say, no, no, we're witches, we exist. Well, I'm not talking about the
Get out,
alchemist, the alchemy kind of thing.
yeah,
I'm
get out
t-
my tarot cards and stuff
right.
like that. I can tell
I'm
you
not,
your future and
yeah, I'm
what
not talking
numbers are
about.
good for the
I'm talking.
lotto.
Right. I'm talking about actual, demon possessing people, talking in tongues, all that stupid woo-woo shit. Do you really think that's for real?
Tom, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm still here. You still there?
Oh, something happened to my thing. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, bummer. Yeah, I must have had a little breakup.
Now this stupid thing has a switch on it for volume control. I didn't see that.
Actually, you sound really good. It's a good microphone, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's my kids. He paid enough for this stupid thing to play games.
Yeah, it's working pretty good.
Okay, got it. No, nothing
Yeah,
about
cool.
that. I'm sorry, I missed that last part that you said there. My thing cut off on me.
Yeah, we're just getting into the witch thing. Do you really think that witches and demons, these supernatural woo-woo kind, do they really possess people and make people speak in tongues? We might have lost you again.
I don't know, like the poltergeist thing, or what's that other one with Linda
Well,
Blair? That other movie. Yeah.
well, you see, I mean, how many you turn on the televangelists and they're hitting people on their forehead? The demon's gone. All this bullshit.
No,
Do you really think demons can possess people and change their behavior and make them speak in tongues and
for that, slap somebody on their head and you're healed and Benny Hine and all this other kind of stuff. No, I think they're full of shit.
That's interesting.
I
At this point in the conversation, I have to say that you're a pretty reasonable guy, and you're pretty much not what
not what you expect.
You're not what you're commenting.
No, I mean what I'm commenting right now. This is what my true beliefs are. Like I said, I could become an agnostic again, tomorrow or the next week or something. I constantly look into different things. I constantly study it when I got time. I have, a little bit of spare time every here and now, but I have, a lot of other interests besides just in the religious thing too. And you might see me advertising an ultralight airplane soon.
There you go.
Aircraft design has been one of my favorite things for a long time.
You got to apply a little science to that,
Well, lots of science.
And if you apply science to the whole way to the question of God, you're going to come up empty,
Well, that might happen, and I might change my mind. I don't know, but
because that
so
does
far
come,
in a long number of years, I haven't.
This really comes back to the other thing we talked about briefly, your method. How do you know? Science uses a proper method of testing and observation, blah, 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 to come to the proper conclusion and to know what truth is. There's no method in the Bible. There's no method to judge a witch from a non-witch, is there?
A witch from a non-witch.
Well, if you're going to accuse if someone is going to be accused of a witch, and the death penalty is that poor woman is going to have to burn at the stake.
Well, you'd have to use a mentality.
Don't you? Well,
a 2,000 year ago mentality. I mean, it'd be a little bit different today.
Well, but it still happens today. This is my point. Women are burned to the stake. For Christ's sake, just the other month we had another one happen in Africa. These people are not using any method. They're wooing a woman to death, and it sends me off the deep end. I can't tolerate woo when it gets to that.
Yeah,
point.
that the voodoo thing, the black magic, the Muslim in Africa female circumcision because women in Islam are sexual furniture. That I would have to say I don't go with.
But apparently, so there's two things I have to say. One,
I would say it's because they're backwards lifestyle. I mean, look at where we've gone in 200 years and where they've gone in 1,000.
Well, sure, but they're just following the book. The book isn't telling them any useful information to come to the correct conclusion. In fact, is leading them to the wrong conclusion. They're horribly, horribly coming to the wrong conclusion based on your woo-woo book. And the great absent one isn't intervening in any way, shape, or form to clear the air. There's no method. Science, however, can answer those questions, and it does answer those questions, and it completely refutes the Bible.
Well, those in Africa aren't going to go according to my book, or they wouldn't be, burning somebody at the stake. They'd be following something in the New Testament, and just the same as we've been doing here for 200 years, and we still manage to progress quite well.
They're doing the Exodus thing. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live.
Well, I don't know. You're going to throw boiling water on somebody and burn out the spirits, or beat them to death and drive out the spirit. I mean, it doesn't say to do that anywhere in the Bible.
It says to kill them.
Not in the New Testament, it doesn't.
But it says it in the Old Testament. People are reading that and doing it.
That's it. Now, where does it? That's why there's a New Testament. You don't follow all those old things in those, and just like you don't follow any of the law of Moses and stuff like. We don't do ceremonial slaughters on Saturday, and we don't go out and kill goats or sheep or whatever else to atone for our sins.
Well, wait a minute now. Now you're picking and choosing. If you're going to abandon all of the Old Testament, you're going to have to abandon all of the commandments then, right? Which ones are you going to keep? Which ones?
It didn't say to abandon all of the Old Testament, or there's stuff to learn from. I mean, what happened? Like everybody's favorite thing is Lot's daughters. I hear that all the time from Muslims. Oh,
sure.
Incest, Lot's daughters, or
offering them to the strangers for.
Well, the one with the strangers, and Lot's daughters later got him drunk and had sex with him.
Well, that too, right?
This and
right.
That's one of their favorite things to pick about that with the Old Testament. I go, but in the New Testament, Jesus told them He gives you a new commandment, and this is what it is, and to go out and teach all nations everything that I've taught you. There was a New Testament. That's in.
How do we stop the confusion? Why doesn't God intervene? Why does God stand by and let an innocent woman get burned at the stake for a crime she didn't commit? Based on woo-woo.
Well, based on all that, I mean, like I said, there's not been an appearance for 2,000 years. Between the Old and the New Testament, there's no appearance for 400 years.
That's my point. This is a useless, worthless God. What's to worship? I mean, this guy doesn't. First of all, it doesn't exist. That's my premise. But if it did exist, this is a cruel, careless, inconsiderate, dumbass, stupid son of a gun. I mean, it is inept. It's certainly not worth worshiping. So I don't know. I really have a problem with faith-driven belief here.
You see that now? That's something that nobody is going to be able to give you anything really. I don't think to change your mind right away, because there hasn't been an appearance for 2,000 years. I mean, people might feel, that was God helping me because something good happened or whatever like that, and they're going to be thankful for it happening. It's got to have been God that done it. There's really nothing concrete, I would say, other than things that might be happening in somebody's life personally that would say, oh, that's making me believe, and they're not going to look for any kind of an evidence or something, or some kind of scientific proof that it was just a coincidence. That's only gonna serve to build their faith in religion, regardless of whether it's Christianity or a Muslim or anything else. I mean, I've had a lot of people that were atheists, or a lot of them that Christians I've talked to, that now they're Muslims, and they were shown the way, and it was crystal clear to them all of a sudden, and it's been 10 years, and it's still crystal clear to them. So, I mean, it's just a matter of that faith.
Mm. But you defend the Bible. You defend the Bible as opposed to the Quran.
Yes.
So you're.
I have my own woo-woo. They have theirs.
Well, there you go.
Basically, there we go.
Well, but that's a problem to me. You can't have woo-woo based on nothing that's opposing somebody else's woo-woo that's based on nothing. It's a recipe for disaster, and that's what we see.
Okay, what would you personally recommend? I mean, if there's a video across the top of your head, email it to me later or something else that would help convince me that evolution actually did occur. I mean, I've seen a lot of, some of the what's his name? Guy had the crippling disease. Really smart guy. He's a physicist.
That's not Hawking. Oh, Hawking. Yeah,
Hawking.
Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, Steve. Yeah, I've seen several of his vids and stuff like this. He's really good. I like him.
Well, he's a cosmologist physicist. He's not an evolutionary biologist. I would recommend maybe a Richard Dawkins or Jerry Coyne is really really one of my favorite evolutionary biologist lecturers. So maybe I'll try to send you a link or two to him. He's out of the University of Chicago, really entertaining, and I'll send you the link. He did a kind of a short half-hour thing at the amazing meeting called "Faith is Not a Virtue."
Mm-hmm.
Why faith is just a crappy position to hold. It doesn't predict anything. It doesn't help you in any way. It's pure woo-woo. Just doesn't help you, as opposed to science, where it provides you answers. Doesn't always give you answers, but if you apply it properly, you can move yourself forward.
So would Dawkins have anything there that would actually convince somebody that evolution somehow took place? We didn't evolve from monkeys, but from something else, and learn to walk upright and learn however we got here, we learned how to reproduce and all that other kind of stuff automatically by ourselves.
Well, certainly Dawkins and Jerry Coyne are two good places to start, but there's a overwhelming amount of evidence. DNA, geology, pretty much Earth sciences in general are going to all land in that same field.
Well, that's one of the things with the DNA that kind of leads me to not believe in evolution, is how all the 3.2 billion strands of it, making a few changes to a dozen of them, 1,000 of them, or a few million of them isn't going to make it better, especially if it's an accidental mutation. It'd have to happen to the male and the female, and it's going to make them suddenly better, or suddenly walk a little bit straighter, or think a little bit better, or realize,
It happens to the offspring. So you have inherited some traits from your parents that are either beneficial or not beneficial. Maybe your father had crappy eyes and couldn't see. He was nearsighted when he was 5 or something. I don't know. So your eyes may have that same affliction. If both your parents had 20/20 vision all their life, odds are you probably would have darn good vision. That's how it gets passed on from generation to generation.
Yeah, there's certain genetic,
over extreme periods of time.
Yeah.
The key is extreme time. A human lifetime, you can't watch it happen in a human lifetime. When you're 60, 80, 100 years, whatever it is. I mentioned the fruit fly thing, and there's lots of other lifespans that are short enough you can watch the evolution occur. The moth, we talked about the moth briefly.
A moth or a mouse, they can reproduce every 16 days.
Sure, and we have natural instances of the moth in England changing color from when we were burning coal for decades to not burning coal. When the air was dirty, the moths adapted. They turned dark. It's you can see it happening. It's proven. It's the one thing we know to be true. And it disputes the Bible. That's really the crux of it. There's no Adam, no Eve, no need to send Jesus, no original sin. The entire house of cards just tumbles down. And it takes Islam down with it.
So what would an atheist say happens when you die? You just go back into your grave, you turn into powder, and you're gone.
Correct. When you die, you die. Party's over. You only get one shot at it. As my buddy Joe says, you live life because you only get one. And that's really what it is. Technically speaking, your brain, your mind is made of atoms. And I can send you a link to Sean Carroll, another physicist who has a wonderful lecture. We know enough about atoms. We know that there's no laws of physics. There's nothing beyond. We know enough about atoms so that when you die, what is you can't go anywhere. There's no force that can send it someplace. There's nothing to save. It goes away. Just like a light bulb that goes out, or a battery that goes dead. The reaction stops. It's sad. You take all the knowledge. My father was a pretty smart guy when he died at 48, 49 years old. And back in his day, he would, the neighborhood guy that could fix a television set and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When he died, took it all with him.
Yeah, we all do.
That's just how it is, right? It's just the way it is. The universe doesn't owe us anything, and we're lucky to be here, really, just to even ask the question.
That's interesting.
To look up at the sky and see what we see, to look into a microscope and see what we see. It's mind-blowing to know that it was a natural cause. It took millions of years, billions of years for us to get here, and to even have enough brain power to even ask these questions. Where is God? It's awesome. Look around. How come no other animals have advanced as far as we did? We just happen to be the lucky ones.
Yeah, well, I'd say that's one of my other questions. She was like, what give you the conscious mind that you have to from right from wrong and stuff like this, and yeah, looking out at the sky and stuff like that's me. I mean, astronomy was my favorite thing as a kid with my little 60 power telescope to look at the moon, look at the stars, and
nice
and stuff like that. I mean, that was one of my other little hobbies, and oh my God, I can't believe I can't remember things.
Well, it's an astonishing thing, I mean, look what religion did to us. We had to endure people being killed because they said the Earth actually does go around the sun. It doesn't go the other way. And so this religion thing has held us back. It's time
I don't see where it's held me back a lot. I mean, I can look at like Johann Kepler's laws for planetary rotation. I mean, NASA uses them today to figure out which way they want to shoot a rocket, so that they know where it'll be at in 3 years from now. Where Mars is going to be in 3 years from now because of another physicist back from 200 years ago, or whenever Kepler was born in the 1800s or something.
Yeah, that's right.
His mathematical formulas are put into computers right now, and they still use it. So I mean,
and had we been listening to the Bible all this time, we would still be in backwards land.
Not necessarily, because like I say, a lot of people that are Christian or they believe in the Bible, it doesn't say anything about not learning, not studying, or anything else. It more about a way to live or worship. Like I said, do unto others you'd have them do unto you. Don't go out and kill somebody because you're pissed off at his loud music. Well, I felt like that a lot of times.
But the Bible makes certain statements about how the universe is that are known to be wrong, and we just can't let that continue. And we know Adam and Eve didn't happen. We know creationism is not right. We know that the Earth revolves around the sun. That's not what the Bible says. We know the Earth is a sphere. It's not flat. I mean, that particular one could be debated a little bit in the Bible, but
yeah, and I'm not sure where it says that in the Bible, or if it does. I know Muhammad said that the Earth is flat and it rides around the universe on the back of a giant whale. I don't think I really believe that so much.
Right. Well, do you believe that Jonah was inside a whale for 3 days?
I have my issues with that statement too.
Well, that's good to hear. It doesn't make any sense at all. How could anyone possibly believe that? How about Noah's Ark? You do believe that one or not?
They claim they found the Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat or something in Turkey, but no one's allowed to touch it and even see if it is true or what it is. I mean, all you have is a satellite picture. But
we know that there's no evidence of a worldwide flood. I mean, there's not enough water on the planet to cover the highest peaks of the mountains.
Well, now I had a 10th grade biology teacher. If you've ever been near Southern California, you know where Bakersfield's at, or a rough idea where Bakersfield is?
Yep. Oh, been there. Yep.
Okay, well, there's a spot just north of Bakersfield, and I can't remember the name. And my 10th grade biology teacher used to go up there, and he used to get shark teeth in certain areas that he was up in that region around there, north of Bakersfield.
Fun.
And yeah, that was one of his things, going out looking for fossils and stuff like that, and there was ancient shark teeth. Now, how did a shark get in Bakersfield?
Well, hey, I mean, you can find fish bones in all kinds of mountain ranges. That's geologic uplift. I mean, that's extreme periods of time where the rocks get pushed up. That's how mountains form. Plate tectonics, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that's how stuff moves around. You got to remember extreme time frames. I mean, if you look at the Grand Canyon, the sediments, the thousands and thousands and thousands of layers of sedimentary rock, it just takes for eons to form that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I can see changes in the ocean, the rocks and stuff around Santa Monica from when I was a kid and went fishing around there and stuff into what it looks like right now. It's in the last 45 years, it's changed a lot. I mean, just from the tidal action and sand, the beaches, where I used to walk at well, I don't know how I word this, where you can walk out to the end of the rocks right now. 35 years ago, you would have been in 20 foot worth of water.
Ah,
But
yeah.
because of tidal actions, that slowly caused the beach to come out another 200 yards or further out. It's extended toward the end of the rocks right now if you ever get around
Yeah.
Marina Del Rey in that area.
Pretty cool. That's how it is.
So
Look
that
at
part has changed. Yeah, so yeah,
cool.
rivers
Cool.
and stuff like that have changed things over periods of, hundreds of thousands of years, even
Sure.
several hundred years.
The Hawaiian Islands. I mean, there you go. It just they pop up.
Yeah, volcanic activity from under the ocean.
Takes an extreme amount of time. No God involved. No woo needed. Just a lot of time, a lot of natural processes, and that's how life can form and life gets going. No woo. There just isn't any. There's nothing that we know to be true that has any sort of supernatural explanation. Nothing.
Like I said, I'm still not convinced about the evolution part in people getting here and the proverbial pond scum getting hit by lightning or whatever took place there to start, forming creatures that would start, climbing out of the water and decide that they're going to live on land now, or they got rid of their gills and they start breathing through their mouth or through something else other than gills to extract oxygen to live on.
You ever see an animal called a mud skipper?
No, can't say that I have.
Modern day of fish that kind of flops around in the mud. It's kind of half in the water, half out. It's kind of a neat little.
I think I've seen some things like that. They can stay out of water for a long period of time.
Right. So there's a good little modern day sort of critter that doesn't know if it wants to be a water critter or a land critter, and evolution is still trying to decide what's best for that one. So it's kind of where that critter is in its evolutionary progress. Us humans, we've got to the point where we have 2 arms, 2 legs, 10 toes, 10 fingers, and a brain that can figure out stuff. We can build automobiles, and we can have Super Bowls.
Have the what now?
Super Bowls where,
Oh.
a bunch of guys bash each other's heads in for no good reason.
So did your team win?
I don't really care. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to watch. I mean, it's always just exciting for the excitement of it. But I'm a gearhead. I'm a motorhead. So I'll wait for the Daytona 500 and watch a bunch of guys go around in a circle. That's more my pace.
Oh, okay.
Although that's, feel free to insert your God and guns thing into the NASCAR. So that's.
Well, you said it. The gun thing, that would be me. I would be reloading and target shooting and teaching somebody else about how to do that.
Oh, so you're one of those. You're one of those God-loving, gun-toting. I'm just funning with you.
Yeah, that would pretty much be me.
Although you're fighting for woo-woo. You know that.
Yeah,
and
but
so,
I don't.
Islam.
If my buddy next to me doesn't believe in it, well, that's up to him, and he's still my buddy, so that part really wouldn't make any difference to me.
Well, but if you're not gonna, if you're gonna stop the witch burning next time you see one.
Yeah, I haven't burned any witches in my life. I can state that as a fact at the moment.
Well, you haven't seen any, but they have burned some in your life, I'm afraid. Just last November.
Somebody has. Yeah, I'm sure somebody has.
It happens. I'm afraid more than you'd like to think. It's horrifying. It's really. I don't even want to get down about it, but it really just punches my button. This stupid woo that drives people to do that is just insane.
That I would be standing right next to you, condemning it right along with you.
I'm glad to hear that.
On some of this ignorant things like that. Yeah, I would just look at that as just pure and total ignorance.
I'm glad to hear that.
I mean, if they, in their case, if they want to say somebody's a witch, turn me into a cat. If you can do that, then I'll believe you're a witch.
Right, exactly.
And then if it's not a black cat, I probably might believe you.
Well, and that goes back to your other thing. Now, sign me up to God if the amputees can walk out of the hospital. But since this guy isn't doing anything, the world is so fucked up. There's so much woo-woo that's damaging people. Whether it's, Islam and Christianity dropping drones on the whole thing. And for God to not do anything is just absurd. So to me, it just doesn't exist, and we have to just stop this. End the woo. We can't stop pushing it. Stop pushing the Bible. It's just not helping.
Well, like I say, I'll have to, send me those links if you get a chance. And I got some other stuff that I'm still looking into about that STI device and that EPR experiment and stuff like this.
Well, though that'd be extremely interested. Post stuff to me if you come up with that.
Yeah, if I see something that's I mean, so far, it's still kind of sketchy, but there's this, that quantum physics is not my thing. I got to admit.
And these are God detector kind of things.
That's what this guy claims. It was 1983. So he claims that using AM-241, which is listed on the periodic table, it's a radioactive element, a byproduct of plutonium or some crap, but they also use a little speck of this stuff in certain smoke detectors. And whatever he was doing with it, with electricity or something, I don't really know. He claims that this thing, that's something that come out of I don't know, another dimension or whatever. I like I said, I got to read some more of it. I just really skimmed through this quick this morning, and he claims that it was able in 1983 that this was able to make 15 spaces on his old computer and type in "be patient." So his thing was, it not only did it respond to him, it told him in a language that he could understand. It did something with his computer, and it told him to be patient. That's about as far as I got in researching him.
Yeah. Well, if that's the best I can do, I am just not impressed.
Yeah, well, neither am I at this point, and he's supposed to be a physicist also. So it's not like he's just like, hey, I built this amateur computer over here and I made it do this, or somebody else made it do this. They come out of the wall and they typed up this for me, and nothing was there. But according to this he's a physicist. So, and according to him, like I say, I got to do a little more research on this STI device that he had, and I've only just and then. That site, he mentioned something else, and there was another EPR experiment, and I haven't even been able to look at that yet.
Well, that's certainly interesting to hear about.
Yeah, well,
God detection. I mean, hey, that's like Ghostbusters, man. Bring it on.
Yeah. Well, anyway, one of those stupid ass places gave me some viruses on my computer, and that's why I just barely got in here at 6 o'clock, because I had to run a scan, and then I had to run a boot scan, so. Try to get rid of it. So
would have been nice if God had put how to make good computers in the Bible, huh?
Yeah, or somebody would have put it in there. I don't care who.
All right. Well, this has actually been pretty good. We've gone about a little over an hour.
Oh, okay.
That was pretty good. I enjoyed this. If you want to keep going, we certainly can. I certainly have more questions for you if you want to get into it.
Well, yeah, I'd like to get a little more research here. Send me some of those links if you got them, or when you get a chance, and I'd like to look at those over, and maybe later on toward the end of the week we can get back together again.
Yeah, it sounds like a good plan. I'll try to get you some Jerry Coyne videos, little stuff on evolution there to indicate to you how we know that is really, really true. And listen, by all means, I'm eager to see any kind of evidence you have. That'd be great.
All right, then. I'll see what I can come up with, and I'll let you know about that, and then you can kick that idea around a little bit and tell me where I went wooed the wrong direction here or something.
All right. Well, this is great.
Let me know what you think about it.
Well, you've certainly conversed far differently than you post, so that's kind of an interesting a bit there, and you're far more reasonable, I think, than what your posts have led me to believe, and so that's interesting. I just find that interesting. But yeah, let's maybe do another hangout, maybe over the weekend or someplace, and we'll do it again.
Do you have to make a different hangout every time you want to come back on the air like that, or you have to build a new one? You have to build a new one.
You have to make a new one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's how that works. You create it, and then you start it and you end it.
Oh, okay. So once it's gone, it's gone.
Well, this one will be recorded. It'll be on YouTube. Hey, there's the cat. I was wondering when she was going to come up.
Oh.
What are you doing? Huh? What you doing, love? She wants to go outside. I'm not letting her. There's too many critters around here.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you're a little more out in the country up there then.
Yeah, I'm definitely out in the woods. Should be somebody's dinner if I let her out. So she won't.
Oh. Yeah, that's the kind of place I wish I'd live. I live out in the desert.
Yeah. No, I'm up in the woods. I've got a lot of redwoods around here, and kind of near the ocean, and we've got bears and bobcat and all kinds of stuff around here.
Oh,
so.
that'd be nice.
Yeah, it's really, really
near the ocean. You never went scuba diving?
I am not a diver. That's a little too much for me. I'm not a diver. I should. You are a diving instructor, though, which I'd like to mention to folks. So you are an actual diving instructor. So you have a skill there.
Yeah, scuba diving was my second thing here in life. You know, flying airplanes was one of them, and then scuba diving was the other. And I've done them both. I'm not an active pilot right now, and I'm not an active instructor anymore. But did it for a number of years, though.
Well, around here, the diving is pretty dangerous. We're pulling out 4, 5, 6 people a year because they get into trouble. Just yanked out a kid the other day, and it was really kind of sad. You know, you go diving. I'm sure you tell people this all the time. You know, you strap a knife to your leg because if you get entangled, you got to cut your way out, no matter what. You know, even if you have to cut your airline. And kid went down, got tangled up, and didn't have a knife.
Got tangled in kelp?
Yep.
Now, kelp is the easiest thing in the world to get out of. People panic when they get in kelp. They inflate their buoyancy device, and that only makes kelp tighter. Kelp is actually very strong, but if you let the air out of your buoyancy device and sink down a few foot, still breathe in your regulator, you can just untangle yourself, cut the kelp off, and swim away. I teach my students how to swim over kelp, and we usually do that at Catalina Island and stuff, or Channel Islands out there, so they learn how to do it, or I try to teach them how to do it. It's still a little scary, though, at times. Close up with the kid.
Well, I'll tell you, it's pretty darn dangerous, and people need to really, really. Diving is not a just jump in the water and start swimming kind of thing.
No, if you need to get some instruction on that. If they don't get the right instruction and they just try it all of a sudden, or they get stuck in it, they're in for a problem usually.
Yep. And we've got nasty rocks, the kelp, the riptide. You know, man, it's not just going snorkeling. You know, in the
No, there's things I used to teach about riptides and rip current and stuff like that too, especially when you're beach diving, how to spot it from an elevation. And if you can find a riptide, you can go. You know, a lot of times if you get caught in a riptide, just swim sideways, just swim parallel to the beach until you're out of the rip current. That's all.
Exactly.
You know, you don't fight it, you'll lose.
Right. Just go with it. If you got to go on shore a couple miles down, so be it.
Yeah, I mean, you can go down maybe 100 yards, you'll be out of the rip current. Then you can swim back in. If you're in scuba gear, you're gonna have a buoyancy device on you, so use it to float away from it, and then swim back in.
Yeah, right. That's a pretty dangerous sport. I mean, we're emergency crews here are pretty active rescuing people. They get into trouble a lot here. So I'm not a water guy. I'm not a diver guy. I'll hike in the woods, and I'm a tree hugger. So this is my game.
All right, then.
All right, well, this is good. Let's shoot for another hangout. I really appreciate you coming. It was really sort of not eased my mind, really. I mean, I still think there's a little too much woo-woo in the world, but you've really made me feel like you're not the big jagoff I thought you were. So I appreciate it.
Okay.
I mean, you have to admit that the posts back and forth were pretty hot and heavy there for a while.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's just part of the entertainment for YouTube.
It is part of it.
There is an entertainment value built into YouTube. I got to admit that.
It is. But hey, I appreciate it. Let's keep in touch, and we'll do a little back and forth. You send me some woo, I'll send you some science, and we'll go from there, man.
Okay then.
All right, I'm going to end the broadcast.
Okay. Have a good night, Tom.
Thanks everybody for coming.